Hey everyone, my name is Zaid, and welcome to the Dark Casebook. Today's story is about a bank robbery where no shots were fired, no hostages were taken, and no one was harmed. And yet, in broad daylight, a bank was robbed. The most shocking part? This entire heist was executed using just a 4-digit code. And for 3 whole days, the bank had absolutely no idea that they had already been robbed. The way this robbery was carried out and how the stolen money was moved across different countries is what makes this story truly fascinating. But then, something happened that completely changed the direction of this case. This story begins in Los Angeles, at the Security Pacific National Bank, October 26, 1978. At around 3:45 in the afternoon, a man, dressed in a suit, holding a clipboard, walks into the bank's computer room. At that exact moment, the clock read 3:45 p.m.
He had a clipboard in his hand, and he was casually writing notes. Now, the question is, who was this man? The answer is, he worked in computer maintenance. His name was Stanley Rifkin. Since he visited regularly for maintenance work, security guards never checked him, and the computer operators barely even looked at him. To them, he was just another IT consultant doing his daily job. His personality was extremely ordinary. There was nothing about him that would make anyone remember him. An average face, an average job. He was just another part of the crowd. But what people didn't realize was, Stanley was exceptionally skilled at what he did. That's why the employees at the bank trusted him. Back in 1978, computer rooms were highly restricted areas. Only high-level authorized personnel were allowed inside, and Stanley was one of them.
Because he was an IT consultant, he had a badge that gave him access to these systems. He had been maintaining these massive IBM computers for months, and these machines were the backbone of one of America's biggest banks. He walked through the corridors, observing every little detail, always alert, always aware, looking for any issue he might need to fix. And that's when his eyes landed on something that would change his life forever. He noticed a piece of paper stuck to a wall, and written on it was 4789. This wasn't just any number. This was an authorization code used by the bank to transfer millions of dollars from one account to another. This code was changed every 24 hours, and only senior employees were supposed to know it. But shockingly, such an important code was just sitting there on a wall. Stanley stood there for about 3 seconds, staring at it. And then he memorized it. 4789. Those weren't just 4 numbers. They were a $10 million opportunity. After memorizing the code, Stanley calmly walked out as if nothing had happened. No one noticed anything. No one suspected anything. At 4:15 p.m., he walked out of the bank for the last time. Because just 15 minutes later, at 4:30 p.m., he was about to pull off one of the biggest bank heists in American history. Back in his office, Stanley sat down. His hands were shaking, his heart was racing, but his mind was completely focused. He picked up the phone and dialed the bank's wire transfer department. As the phone rang, his heartbeat got faster and faster. Then a voice answered. "Wire transfer department, how can I help you?" Stanley replied, "This is Mike Hansen. I'd like to make a transfer." The operator asked for the authorization code. This was the moment everything depended on. If he got it wrong, it was over. But that code had been running through his mind non-stop. He took a breath and said, 4789. A few seconds passed, and then code verified. That was it. The operator asked, "How much would you like to transfer?" Stanley replied, $10 million. He provided the account details of a fake account he had created at Irving Trust Company in New York under a false name. Since the code was correct, the operator didn't ask any further questions, and just like that, $10 million were transferred from one bank to another account. In just 3 minutes and 47 seconds, a bank had been robbed without anyone even realizing it. After hanging up, Stanley sat there in silence. His hands were still shaking. He couldn't believe it.
He had just committed a federal crime, a crime that could put him in prison for the rest of his life. But at the same time, he felt something else: satisfaction. His theory was correct. Even a high-security bank could be fooled with just a code. After a few moments, he picked up the phone again and called Irving Trust. He confirmed that the money had arrived. Everything was going according to plan. But now he had to move fast. He knew the longer the money stayed in one place, the higher the risk. By morning, he had to be in New York, and by afternoon, he needed to move the money to Switzerland and convert it into diamonds. If he succeeded, he would disappear, rich and untraceable. But he didn't know that his fate had something else planned. That entire night, Stanley didn't sleep, not even for a minute. At 6 a.m., he boarded a flight to New York. The next morning, the bank opened as usual. Employees went about their daily work, completely unaware that $10 million were missing. Meanwhile, Stanley landed at JFK Airport. He took a taxi and went straight to Irving Trust. He showed his fake ID. The operator checked the balance: $10 million. Even she was surprised. But professionally, she asked, "How much would you like to withdraw?" Stanley said, "I need some cash and transfer the rest to Switzerland." After completing the transaction, he left for Switzerland. The next day, he was sitting in an office with Soviet officials and a translator. A briefcase was opened. Inside were high-quality diamonds, different sizes, different cuts. Stanley examined them closely, even though he didn't really understand diamonds.
But he acted like he did. The deal was done. $10 million were now a briefcase full of diamonds. Small, portable, untraceable. On October 30, he reached Geneva Airport with that briefcase in hand. He was nervous. What if customs checked it? But they didn't. His passport was stamped and he was allowed to pass. Relieved, he boarded a flight back to Los Angeles. At home, he hid the diamonds inside his closet. Now, his final step was to slowly sell them. He wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to stay invisible. But 3 days later, everything changed.
During a routine audit, an accountant noticed a $10 million transfer. Something was wrong. He verified it, and soon the truth came out. The bank had been robbed. The FBI was called immediately. November 1, 1978, Special Agent Norman White took over the case. They made a list of everyone who had access to the computer room. There were 20 people, 19 employees, and 1 consultant, Stanley. Meanwhile, Stanley had started selling diamonds. Everything was going smoothly, until he made one mistake. He trusted someone, Paul. When he tried to sell diamonds to Paul at a lower price, Paul got suspicious. That same night, Paul saw the news about the bank fraud, and everything clicked. He called the FBI. November 5, 7 a.m. FBI agents broke into Stanley's house. He was arrested. The briefcase was recovered. The diamonds were found. During interrogation, he was asked, "Why did you do it?" Stanley replied, "I just wanted to see if I could do it." In 1979, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. But even today, one question remains. Was he a criminal or a genius? Because without violence, without weapons, he pulled off one of the most intelligent bank robberies in history. If you like this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the Dark Casebook, and tell me in the comments, what do you think? Was Stanley a criminal or a mastermind? I'm Zaid, and I'll see you in the next dark story.